going on, everybody? It's Aurora coming at you with a brand new video, and tonight we got a very exciting reveal out of Alliance Insight, and that is Dragon Rulers finally becoming an archetype. Similar to Shark, I guess, as an example, Dragon Rulers have always been a series of cards that did have a matching name, technically. However, due to lacking, direct support that mentioned them by name, except for, the Baby Rulers mentioned specific ones, they didn't actually classify as an archetype, but now we finally got some more Dragon Ruler support, and they finally bring them together as an archetype. I know we got a light baby, a dark baby, and then we have 3 extra deck ones, which I think are supposed to be the big forms of each, and then a big boss monster, so I'm really excited to see what this looks like. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. Starting off, we have Spectre Dragon Ruler of Aurora's, me? It's a level 2 light dragon with 600 attack and 1000 defense, and you can only use 1 effect per turn and only once that turn. You can discard this card and 1 other light or dragon monster, add 2 Dragon Ruler monsters from your deck to your hand, except Spectre, and you can banish it and another light or dragon from your grave to target 1 Chasmatis Dragon Ruler of Poles in your graveyard and special summon it. So this is definitely much stronger than the other Baby Rulers, it looks like, because it allows you to search for up to 2 Dragon Rulers instead of directly special summoning 1 of them from your deck, so you can grab any one that you might want for a certain situation. Though admittedly, you probably have to think of certain plays to utilize the other Dragon Rulers in a more pure Dragon Ruler deck, so I'm not sure what this situation would exactly entail. But then as follow-up, it looks like you can banish it to not only summon back the probably big version of it, or maybe it's the polar opposite one, which is why it's like Dragon Ruler Poles or something. Whatever big version, definitely one of the new Xyz monsters, I believe. And then you can trigger the effect of your Dragon Ruler that you banished off of it, which is pretty cool. Next up is Nebulos, Dragon Ruler of Darknesses, not Darkness, Darknesses, is a level 2 Dark Dragon with 1000 attack and 600 defense. You can only use 1 effect per turn and only once that turn. You can discard this card and another Dark or Dragon monster, then target 2 of your banished Dragon Rulers with different attributes except Nebulos, and special summon them, but they cannot attack this turn. And you can banish it and another Dark or Dragon from your grave, then target an Eclipsis Dragon Ruler of Calamities in your graveyard and special summon it. So I'm going to ignore the second effect because it's the same as Spectre, but the first effect is also very, very good. Definitely seems very good in a grind game, because not only are you recurring those Dragon Rulers that you've banished so you can use their effects again later, but you're also getting a free rank 7, or I guess link fodder as well, but most importantly rank 7 with this new support, which is very, very strong as well. For the first of the 3 new Xyz monsters, we have Chasmatis Dragon Ruler of Poles. This is the light one. It is a rank 7 light dragon with 3000 attack and 1600 defense. It requires 2 level 7 dragon monsters. You can only use each effect once per turn. Quick effect, you can send 1 level 7 Dragon Ruler from your deck to the graveyard and detach a material from this card. This effect becomes that sent monster's effect that activates by discarding itself, and if this card is destroyed by battle, or if this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can special 1 level 7 Dragon Ruler from your graveyard or banishment. So the first effect is definitely meant to be on your turn, something like a Redox or a Title to set up your graveyard or your field presence, while on the opponent's turn, it's much better to go for something like a Blaster. Oh yeah, Tempest also on your turn, because literally just a Rhoda, I believe. So you can do a bunch of different things on your turn. You have options, and on the opponent's turn, you can bare minimum have a pop off of Blaster, which I think is pretty cool. And again, this is all giving you more graveyard setup. And then the second effect is pretty decent, is a little bit of good recursion. It doesn't summon a rank 7, so you have to summon one of the big Dragon Rulers, and there's no new big Dragon Rulers in the main deck, so you will have to kind of deal with one of the other ones. But remember that the Dragon Rulers, if I recall correctly, bounce themselves to the hand at the end of the opponent's turn after they were special summoned. I think that's how they work. So that means you can get this popped on your opponent's turn, summon back a Dragon Ruler, and if it doesn't die, you get to add it back to your hand and utilize it later. Next, we have Nebulos' form, which is Eclipsis Dragon Ruler of Calamities. Thank God it's not True King of all calamities. It's a rank 7 Dark Dragon Xyz, 2700 attack and 1900 defense, and requires 2 level 7 dragons, and you can only use each effect once per turn. If it's Xyz summoned, you can target 1 level 4 or lower Dragon Ruler in your graveyard or banishment, special summon 1 level/rank 7 Dragon Ruler, monster mentioned on it from your deck or banishment, then shuffle that target into the deck. And when your opponent activates a spell or trap card or effect, quick effect, you can attach 2 materials from this card, negate the activation, and if you do, banish that card. So this one can straight up not just summon the big guys from your deck, but it can even summon something like your Chasmatis due to it being mentioned on the Spectre, in case you already have access to Spectre, and this can always recycle your babies as well, which is really good, And on top of that, it is also a negate, but not just a negate, but a negate and banish. That also works on spell or trap cards or effects. This is really good because it can work very very well against things like field spells or continuous spells, or anything with a graveyard effect. For this format, for example, I can say like Goblin Biker Grand Entrance, this would be really good against. So another solid piece of support here. It's a good disruption, as well as being an extender on Xyz Summon. Their final new monster is Disaster, Dragon Ruler of Extremes. It is a rank 7 light dragon Xyz with 0 attack and defense that requires 2 rank 7 just 2 rank 7 monsters. It says you can only use the first effect once per turn. If it's Xyz Summon, you can target up to 4 level 7 Dragon Ruler monsters in your graveyard and or banishment, attach them to this card as material, then you can banish all monsters your opponent controls and in their graveyard with the same attributes as the monsters attached to this card. If this card has Light, Dark, Earth, Water, Fire, and Wind Dragon Ruler monsters as material, it gains 4,600 attack and defense. Also, it is unaffected by other cards' effects. Okay, so this one's definitely a little bit interesting. So it summons similarly to Exosister Magnifica or Utopic Draco Future, so you do have to commit a little bit of resources to go into it, and it does detach the materials that were under this, it looks like. But you can immediately reattach them, and it is up to 4 level 7 Dragon Rulers, so I'm assuming the idea is that you use 2 of these immediately to summon it, being the Light and the Dark, of course, Eclipsis and Chasmatis, and then you have Blaster, Tidal, Tempest, and Redox, it's almost like saying the reindeer names at this point, to attach for the other 4 to get the 4,600 attack and also make it a big towers. But honestly, do you even need that when you're already banishing a bunch of stuff from your opponent's field and graveyard? Because that's automatically going to get rid of a lot of lights and darks, which is technically still one of, if not the best series of attributes in the game, even though it has been like 6 years since Dark Warrior format. But on top of that, you can also, like, even against like something like Fire King, for example, because while Snake Eye's basically dead at this point, Fire King is definitely still a decent deck. You can just attach a blaster and then just banish all of their graveyard setup, all their field setup, doesn't trigger any of the pop stuff. Definitely seems very, very good, but probably not more than a one of for like a big quick whammy to either go in there for damage or at least wipe the board so you can go into something else. Their final new card is a quick play spell named Drago Catastrophe. It says you can only use one of its effects per turn and only once that turn. Let's see if it's better than, what's the name of that one card that was Super Rejuvenation, yeah. So special a Dragon Ruler monster from your hand, graveyard, or banishment. Then immediately after this effect resolves, you can Xyz Summon a Dragon Ruler monster using only Dragon Ruler monsters you control as material, and during your main phase, you can banish it from your graveyard, then target any number of your banished Dragon Ruler monsters with different attributes, and return them to the graveyard. So this card seems like fine overall. It does immediately get you a Dragon Ruler and then attempt to set up an Xyz play, which is typically probably going to be on your opponent's turn, is what they want you to do with this, which is why it's a quick play spell. So you can go, you know, into your Eclipses to get the immediate effect on Xyz Summon, and then you also get to have a negate. You can also go into Chasmatis here, and then get a dump and then a pop and stuff like that. The second effect is probably actually the better part of the effect in my opinion, because it allows you to just put a bunch of Dragon Rulers back into your graveyard, which is really big. Because remember, not only do the Dragon Rulers have effects when they're banished, but they can also banish each other to summon themselves from the graveyard at the cost of not being able to use their other effects. Honestly, I think Super Rejuvenation is still like a significantly more nutty card for this archetype, but definitely not a bad piece of support for a back row card. So that's going to do it for the Dragon Ruler support. What do I think about it? I think it's interesting. I think it's really cool that they finally acknowledge that Dragon Ruler is so popular. It spawned one of the biggest like tier 0 metas, I believe it was, of all time. One of the most known formats of all time. And all the cards literally like only just now came off completely off the list. Like, how long? It's almost been 12 years since the card's release, which is crazy, or at least since their format was a thing. I don't know if they were released in like 2012 or something like that. I don't necessarily think that while these cards are strong, that they will make Dragon Ruler like a viable solo strategy. The problem with Dragon Ruler is that they have 3 effects each, but you can only use one of them per turn each, so you have to choose between using their discard effects, using their banish effects, or using their effects to summon themselves and utilize your other resources to do that. So they definitely feel like they're very, very dependent on drawing Spectre and Nebulous, and you can't even grab these off like Chaos Space, for example, because they can be normal summoned or set, so it's a little bit annoying. I do like their boss monsters. All 3 of them are definitely very solid. I like that this one, both of them actually can be used for starters/extenders, quote-unquote, on your turn, and then also have a little bit of disruption, being able to send blaster, being a negate, and then the floating is pretty decent as well on Chasmatis. I really love the design of Disaster as a card. I think it's very goofy, but if you can pull it off, it's just kind of ridiculous, and it doesn't seem like it'd be like the hardest thing to pull off, because it can attach things from your graveyard or banishment, so it's not like you have to have them in your graveyard or banishment, but like specifically. And then while I think the spell card is probably the weakest card out of this support wave, I definitely think it is still pretty good to be able to summon a Dragon Ruler from anywhere known on your field zones, quote unquote, and then be able to summon your things without having to utilize the Dragon Ruler's effect to special summon itself, so that you don't waste the ability to use the other effects. But I don't know, that's just my opinion. Let me know in the comments below, because that's gonna do it for the video. If you liked it, please sure to leave a like, as I'll put this video and the channel into the YouTube recommended. And if you really like this content and you're somewhere like it, like the rest of my review series, then perhaps consider subscribing and turning on notifications if you haven't already, because it supports the channel or anything else, and it's absolutely free. Also, when you're directly getting some awesome perks in the process, check out my $1 and $5 tiers on my Patreon, which you can find the link for down below, to see what awesome stuff you can get there. But once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Aurora, signing off.